Hi, my name is Lauren Bennett. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 9 years, I've served in the U.S. Army. I've driven supply convoys through active combat zones. I've been ambushed, stitched wounds in sandstorms, and carried my brothers and sisters out of hell with nothing but grit and a prayer. But you want to know what almost broke me? It wasn't the desert. It wasn't the bullets. It was a wedding rehearsal, in my hometown, standing across from my older sister. "You can't wear white," she said. "Why not?" I asked, confused. She looked at me like I should have known. "Because you're not pure." Right then, right in that quiet, echoing moment, something inside me cracked. And the next morning, I didn't walk into the bridal suite in blush pink chiffon like she wanted. No. I walked in wearing my full army dress uniform. You want to know what happened after that? Silence. A mother's gasp. A father's salute. And a shift in the room that changed everything, but I'll get to that. First, leave me a comment telling me where you're watching from. And hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to fight to be yourself. Even with the people who should have known you best. I grew up in Wellesley, Massachusetts. You know the type: Victorian houses, well-manicured lawns, moms who organize bake sales and know everyone's cholesterol level. We were the Bennetts. 2 daughters. 2 tracks. There was my sister, Elise. 3 years older, blonde, blue-eyed, the golden child. Elise played cello by age 5, won Miss Middlesex at age 9, and knew the difference between bone china and porcelain by 10. She never left the house without sunscreen and never missed a thank you note. And then there was me, Lauren. Wild curls, scraped knees, loud opinions. I liked mud and math. I asked our Sunday school teacher why only men got to stand at the pulpit. That didn't go over well. Every single report card read the same: Lauren is bright but disrupts class. Challenges authority. Needs to be more like her sister. Why can't you be more like Elise? That line echoed through my childhood like a theme song. By the time I was 13, Elise was being scouted for Ivy League internships, and I was just trying not to vanish. The real break came when I turned 17. While everyone else obsessed over prom and college essays, I walked into a recruiting office and signed my name. U.S. Army. Enlisted, I told my family over dinner. My mom dropped her wineglass. My dad stared like I'd grown horns. But Elise just looked at me and said, "You're throwing everything away." I wish I could tell you that moment brought us closer. It didn't. It was the beginning of nearly a decade of stiff holiday dinners, careful small talk, and miles of silence. Then, out of nowhere, an envelope arrived in the mail. Elise was getting married. And not only that, she asked me to be her maid of honor. There was even a handwritten note: "Let's start over. I want you beside me." I stared at that card for an hour, wondering if this was real. Was this the chance I'd waited for? The one where maybe, finally, we could meet in the middle. So I said yes. I took leave. Booked a flight. Bought a navy blue dress for the engagement dinner, classy, respectful, not flashy. I wanted no problems, but from the moment I stepped into that wedding week, I felt it. I didn't belong. Her bridesmaids were all these Ivy League sorority types. Identical beach waves, French manicures, matching rose gold luggage. "Oh, you must be the Army sister. That's so brave of you. Wow. You actually got leave for this? So lucky." It was all smiles and passive digs. Then came the fitting. The dresses were blush pink, off the shoulder, floor-length chiffon. I stepped out of the changing room, and Elise's face dropped. "We're going to have to cover those," she said, gesturing to the scar on my shoulder. I stared at her. "Maybe some long gloves?" She offered, "Or like, a cute wrap?" Then, like she was giving style advice, "And could you stand softer? You just look so military." I bit my tongue. This is her day, I told myself. Don't make it about you, so I let them put in the hair extensions. I smiled through the makeup tutorials. I watched Elise debate floral centerpieces like the wrong peony could cause an international incident, but the final straw came at the rehearsal dinner. We were going over table placements, last-minute seating changes, and I casually mentioned I'd be wearing my cream-colored dress. It wasn't white, just off-white. Safe, Elise froze. You can't wear white to anything. I laughed. It's not white, it's ivory. Her voice dropped low. You're not pure, Lauren. Don't do this. I stood there like I'd been slapped with a napkin. Our mom just kept folding name cards like she hadn't heard a thing. That night, I didn't sleep. Her words, "You're not pure," played in my head like an old record. Skipping over the same hurt, and at some point, I reached for the second garment bag in my suitcase, the one I'd packed just in case. Inside was my Army service uniform. Dark navy. Pressed. Complete with my rank, my insignia, and every ribbon I'd earned, Bronze Star. Purple Heart, 9 years of grit and grief stitched into every inch. I ran my hand over the sleeve. This wasn't just a uniform. It was me. The only thing I'd ever worn that fit just right, because it was earned. That morning, I showed up to the bridal suite at 7 a.m., just like I was told. Everyone was in chaos, hair curlers, champagne, contour palettes, the works. Elise beamed when she saw me. You came, she whispered. Pulling me in for a hug, I sat. Let a stranger curl my hair. Let them make me up into someone I barely recognized, but when it came time to put on the dress, I excused myself. Stepped into the bathroom, and changed, not into blush pink, but full military dress, dark navy. Brass buttons. Bars, ribbons, medals, pride. When I stepped back into the suite, silence dropped like a chandelier. The air shifted. Elise turned. Her champagne glass paused midair. Are you serious? She whispered. I am, I said. Calm. Hands behind my back. Steady. Go change, Lauren. Please. I won't. The room froze. Only one bridesmaid dared to speak. It's her wedding, she said. Don't be selfish. Before I could respond, the door opened. Our mom walked in, saw me, and gasped, Lauren, what are you doing? I stood taller. Showing up as myself. Then Dad walked in. His eyes went to the medals first, and then to my face. Bronze Star. Kandahar? He asked. I nodded. He touched the medal with trembling fingers. You earned that. And for the first time in my life, he looked at me with something I didn't recognize. Pride. Elisa's face twisted. This is my day, she snapped. Everything was supposed to be perfect. And then came the line I'd expected but still hoped wouldn't come. Either you change, or you're out of the wedding party. I looked at her, really looked at her. My sister. The girl who used to braid my hair and once stayed up with me all night when I was sick with the flu. I could still remember her reading me bedtime stories when I was little and scared of the dark. That girl had loved me once. I took a breath. My voice didn't shake. I love you, Elise. I showed up for you. But I won't erase myself to fit into someone else's idea of what I should be. Not anymore. She didn't say another word. Just turned to her maid of honor, Jillian, and nodded. That was it. Just like that, I was out. I folded the pink dress, laid it gently on the bench, and walked out of that suite. Not as Elise's bridesmaid. Not as the black sheep. But as Staff Sergeant Lauren Bennett. I made my way to the guest bathroom down the hall and locked the door behind me. My hands trembled, not from fear. I'd been through far worse. I'd faced sandstorms, gunfire, nights when the silence was louder than any explosion. No, these shakes were something else. Relief. I hung the bridesmaid dress back on its hanger and reached into my garment bag again, smoothing the fabric of my service uniform. Each badge, each pin, every thread told a story. Of sacrifice. Of strength. Of survival. I wasn't trying to make a scene. I wasn't looking to steal the spotlight. I just couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't squeeze into a world that asked me to tuck away the parts of me that mattered most. The extensions? I pulled them out and tossed them into the sink. The makeup? Wiped it away with cold water and a towel. I pulled my own curls back into a tight, clean bun. Looked into the mirror and finally, saw someone I recognized. There she was. Staff Sergeant Lauren Bennett, soldier. Leader. Sister, survivor. I didn't need chiffon to earn respect. I didn't need to hide the scars I'd gotten pulling friends from wreckage or crawling through barbed wire in the dead of night, and I certainly didn't need to stand quieter, softer, smaller to earn love. I stepped out of the bathroom, heels clicking softly on the tile. The suite had gone quiet when I left, but when I walked back in, it was like someone had hit mute. 5 bridesmaids turned away, suddenly very interested in their lipstick or their clutches. Elise stood frozen, eyes locked on my uniform like it was glowing. "What are you wearing?" she finally asked. I didn't flinch. "The truth." She shook her head, lips pressed tight. "This isn't the time for one of your stunts, Lauren. You're making this about you." "I'm not," I said. "I'm just done making myself small so you can feel big." Her cheeks flushed red. "You're embarrassing me." I opened my mouth to answer, but I didn't have to, because at that exact moment, our dad stepped forward. He looked at me again, really looked, and this time he didn't look away. He stepped closer, eyes fixed on the bars across my chest. He reached out and gently tapped one of the medals. "This one. For valor?" I nodded. His voice caught in his throat. "Your daughter served her country," he said, turning toward the room. "That uniform deserves more respect than any dress ever could." Silence followed. A kind that wasn't awkward or angry, but something else. Something deep. For the first time in 32 years, I felt seen, not tolerated, not misunderstood, seen. The ceremony still happened. Just without me in the lineup, I sat in the third pew, still in full uniform, still Lauren. When Elise walked down the aisle, her eyes caught mine. And for a moment, her smile hesitated, just the briefest flicker of conflict behind the veil. But she didn't look away. I clapped when the vows were exchanged. I smiled when the crowd cheered. I even wiped away a tear, not for the romance, but for myself. For choosing myself. At the reception, I stayed mostly to the side, sipping water, watching the dance floor spin in soft, golden light. That's when a man in a gray suit walked up to me. "Staff Sergeant," he said, extending his hand. I stood, offered a salute by instinct. "William Hayes. Retired. I'm Ryan's uncle." He held my salute a beat longer than most, then lowered his hand with a nod. "I saw the Bronze Star," he said. "Kandahar?" "Yes, sir. I was there. Different unit. Different year. But I know what it took to earn that." His eyes were kind. Sharper than most. The kind of eyes that had seen enough to know what mattered and what didn't. "I'd be honored if you'd sit at our table," he said. Something in me softened. "I'd be honored, sir." We talked through dinner, not about flowers or centerpieces, but about real things. About leadership. Fear. Faith. Loss. His wife joined us too. She leaned in gently and said, "Sometimes, family isn't who shares your blood. It's who sees your worth." Across the ballroom, I felt Elise's gaze before I saw it. She was watching me. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes weren't angry anymore. Just searching. She crossed the room slowly, heels clicking on polished wood. "Lauren," she said, voice calm but taut. "Can we talk? Just us." I followed her back to the bridal suite, the same place where all this had started. She closed the door behind us and leaned against the wall. Her veil was off, her shoes already kicked aside. "You embarrassed me," she said, quietly. "But you also made me think." I waited. She sat down on the edge of a velvet chair, looking small in a way I'd never seen before. "You have no idea how scared I was when you enlisted," she whispered. "Every deployment. Every silence. I thought we were going to lose you." I blinked. That wasn't what I expected to hear. "I thought you hated me for joining." She shook her head, eyes glassy. I didn't hate you. I just couldn't understand you. You were brave in ways I wasn't. I stepped closer, sat on the ottoman across from her. I thought you looked down on me. Thought I was messy. Loud. Wrong. I did, she admitted, softly. At first. But. I'm proud of you, Lauren. Proud of who you are. I just wish I'd said it sooner. A beat passed, then she smiled through the tears. Still mad at me? I smiled too. Only if you ever make me wear pink again. She laughed. For real this time. Full and warm, when we returned to the ballroom, the energy had shifted. The music had picked up, the dance floor was packed, and guests were laughing over cake and coffee. But then, my father stood, he tapped a spoon gently against his glass, cleared his throat, and raised it for a toast. To Elise, he said, lifting his champagne. Our beautiful bride. You've always had grace and poise and vision. We're so proud of the woman you've become. Everyone clapped politely, but then he turned, slowly, until he was facing me, and to Lauren, he continued, voice strong and clear, who reminded us that courage isn't about medals, it's about standing tall, even in the face of judgment. Even when it comes from your own family. There was a pause, and then real applause. From the back table, from the dance floor, from people I'd never even met. A few stood. My throat tightened, I didn't stand up or wave. I just nodded. That moment? That one right there, it was the acceptance I hadn't dared to hope for. Later, near the dessert table. A teenage girl I didn't recognize approached me with wide eyes and trembling hands. She had braces, nervous energy, and a little lanyard that said cousin of the groom. Excuse me? Are you Staff Sergeant Bennett? I smiled. I am. She hesitated, then blurted, I want to enlist. But my parents said it's not for girls. I tilted my head. What do you think? I think I'd be good at it, she said, straightening. I like rules. And maps. And I want to do something that matters. You sound like a soldier already, I said. And for the record, it's absolutely for girls. Her whole face lit up. Tell your parents I said that, I added with a wink. After that, more guests trickled over. Some shared quiet thanks. One man, a Vietnam vet, simply squeezed my shoulder and nodded. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to, but what hit hardest was the quiet moment with my mom. She found me near the photo booth, holding 2 tiny cupcakes and looking a little awkward. I brought red velvet, she said. Thanks, I said, surprised. We stood there in silence for a moment, and then she cleared her throat. I didn't know how to handle it. You joining, I mean. I was afraid. And I didn't want to lose you, so I pulled away. I nodded. I know. I never meant to make you feel like you didn't belong. I know that too. She glanced at my uniform, eyes lingering on the Purple Heart. You always came back stronger. I wasn't sure how to reach you. You don't have to, I said. Just walk beside me. She smiled, soft and shaky. I'd like that. The reception stretched into the evening. At one point, the DJ called for the family to gather for the group photo, and for the first time, Elise waved me over without hesitation. I stood beside her, our shoulders brushing. Her hand found mine, fingers squeezing gently. We smiled for the camera, not just for the wedding, but for something more. Something rebuilt. Before the night ended, I stepped outside to breathe in the cool air. The stars were coming out. The music inside sounded distant and muffled, like a memory already being tucked away. That's when Elise joined me on the terrace. I wanted this to be perfect, she said, wrapping her shawl tighter around her shoulders. It was, I said. Just not in the way either of us expected. She looked out into the night. Do you ever regret joining? No, I said. Not for a second. Even with everything it's cost? I nodded. Especially because of what it gave me. She turned to face me. You're brave, Lauren. Not just out there, But here, too. With us. I smiled. You're brave, too. You just wear it differently. We stood there in silence, the way sisters sometimes do when words aren't quite enough, when the night wound down, and the venue staff began sweeping confetti off the floor. Elise hugged me tightly. I'm glad you came, she whispered. I'm glad I didn't leave. And that was the truth, because for the first time in years, I didn't feel like an outsider. I didn't feel like the rebel or the disappointment, I felt like myself, seen. Heard. Whole, not because I changed, but because I stopped hiding. And if you've ever felt like the odd one out, the one who didn't quite fit in your own family, I want you to know this: there is strength in showing up as you are, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you something. Sometimes, standing your ground doesn't push people away, it gives them permission to meet you halfway. So if this story meant something to you, drop a comment and tell me your name, your story, your truth, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the world needs more voices that won't be quieted. After the wedding, I flew back to my base in Texas. The sun was hotter there, the air dry and open, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Something had shifted, maybe not in the world, but definitely in me. My squad noticed right away. You look taller, Sergeant McLean said the moment I walked into the mess hall. Must be the boots, I joked, but it wasn't. It was standing tall for myself. Finally, back in routine, I fell into my usual rhythm: early runs, gear checks, training exercises. Life in uniform is a life of structure. But underneath that structure, there's a heartbeat, and it had changed for me, because now, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't just see a soldier, I saw a woman who'd survived her family's rejection, who stood in a room full of judgment and didn't flinch. And then something unexpected happened. About 2 weeks after the wedding, I got a letter. Yes, an actual letter. Not an email. Not a text, it was from Elise. The handwriting was still the same, rounded and perfect. Only this time, the words inside felt different. Dear Lauren, I know I already said this, but I wanted to say it without all the noise, the champagne, and the fake smiles. Thank you, not just for standing up for yourself, but for standing in that room. For not walking away from me. For being braver than I ever knew a person could be. I've spent most of my life being the perfect daughter. I don't even know if that's who I really am. Maybe I was just trying to be loved in the only way I knew how. I used to think you were reckless, loud, difficult, but you're not, you're real, and now, I'm learning how to be that too. Love, Elise. I read it 3 times. Folded it. Unfolded it again. Cried, and then I did something I hadn't done since basic training. I called home. Not just to talk logistics or holiday plans, to talk. Really talk. Mom picked up first. We talked for almost an hour. No tension. No eggshells. Then Dad called later that week. We didn't speak long. He's not a long call kind of guy, but he told me he looked up the meaning of the bronze star. He'd printed it out. I keep it on my desk, he said. So when people ask about my daughter, I can show them. That one? That got me. It turns out, when you stop apologizing for who you are, people either step away or step up. Mine? They stepped up. And Elise? She started sending me little updates. I signed up for a public speaking class. One message read, volunteering at the shelter now. Found a scar on my knee I forgot I had, it reminded me of you. We were learning to meet in the middle. Not by becoming the same, but by accepting the difference. About 3 months after the wedding, Elise visited me on base. She wore jeans and sneakers, hair in a ponytail, no makeup. I nearly dropped my coffee. What happened to the queen of pageants? I teased. She smiled. She's taking a sabbatical. We spent the weekend talking. Cooking. Walking. She met some of my team. Sat through a boot polish session and even helped fold flags for a retirement ceremony. Before she left, we stood at the gate hugging tight. I used to think strength was about smiling when everything hurt, she said. But now I think it's what you did, showing up in the pain anyway. I squeezed her shoulder. You're stronger than you think. She smiled. I had a good teacher. That night, after she flew home, I sat alone under the Texas stars. Thought about all the years I'd tried to disappear, tried to shrink myself into someone quieter, softer, more acceptable, and all it had taken was one moment of truth, one uniform, one decision to stop folding myself into someone else's vision of worthy. People always say family is everything, but they forget to add, only when it's real. The truth is, not every family starts out whole. Some are fractured. Some need time. Some need a jolt to see clearly. Mine needed all three. And if you're sitting there wondering whether it's worth it, to speak up, to walk tall, to wear your truth out loud, let me be the one to say, it is. You are. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be you. It's been a year since the wedding. A lot can happen in 12 months. Elise and I? We're not just sisters now. We're friends. Not the kind that talk every day, but the kind that know they don't have to. The kind that can call after 3 weeks of silence and pick right back up, no guilt, no pressure, no masks. She's different now. Softer in the right ways, tougher in the ones that matter. She sends me articles about women veterans, asks questions she never would have asked before. Last month, she told me she's thinking about running for local office. I want to change the way people look at service, she said. Not just military, but people who serve their families, their communities, even when no one claps. I told her she already had my vote. And my parents? They've come a long way, too. Mom started volunteering with a support group for military moms. She even hosted a fundraiser for wounded veterans last spring, and asked me to speak. Standing in front of that small-town crowd in Wellesley, Massachusetts, I looked out and saw her in the front row, tissues in hand, pride in her eyes. It almost didn't feel real, but it was. And Dad? He keeps that printout about the Bronze Star in a frame now. Right next to my high school photo, the one he never took down, even after I left. When guests come over, he tells them, that's my girl. Staff Sergeant. 9 years in. Tough as nails. He never used to brag, now he can't seem to stop. A few weeks ago, I flew home for Elise's baby shower. That's right, she's expecting a little girl. I gave her a tiny camo onesie that said future leader across the chest. She laughed so hard she cried. We spent that whole weekend in sweats, eating kettle corn, watching old home videos. There was one of us as kids, me in overalls and cowboy boots, Elise in a tutu, both of us dancing on the back patio while our dad grilled burgers. I used to think I had to choose, she said as the screen faded to black. Be like her or be like you. You don't, I told her. You just have to be yourself. And I meant it, because here's the truth I didn't know back then, your strength isn't in how well you perform. It's in how deeply you show up as you are. No ribbons required. No stage. No perfect dress. I look back now and realize, I wasn't angry at Elise for being the golden girl. I was angry because I thought that was the only version of good my family recognized. Turns out, they just needed a little time, and maybe one very public wake-up call, to expand that definition. I gave them that, and in return, they gave me something I never thought I'd have, a seat at the table as myself. So if you're listening to this, wondering when your moment will come, when someone will finally see you, I want you to hear me. Don't wait for their permission, don't wait for the perfect day or the perfect words. Wear the uniform, speak the truth, take up the space you've earned, even if your voice shakes. Even if your family doesn't get it yet, because sometimes, standing up for yourself doesn't just change you, it changes everything. There's one more thing I want to tell you. After the baby shower, just before I flew back to Texas, Elise and I went for a walk through our old neighborhood. The streets were the same, neatly trimmed lawns, hydrangeas in bloom, the kind of town where mailboxes are painted and kids ride scooters in matching helmets. We passed by our old elementary school. The flagpole was still there, the same one where I once got detention for raising a frog in the lunchbox bin. Elise laughed when she remembered that. You were always fearless, she said. I shrugged. I was always loud. She stopped walking and looked at me. There's a difference, Lauren. You weren't loud to be difficult. You were loud because no one else was speaking up. That stuck with me, because for a long time I thought my voice was the problem. that I'd been too much. Too blunt. Too scarred. Too soldier, not enough sister. But maybe what I'd really been was just ahead, and maybe that's why you're here. Listening to this. Watching this, because you've been the one who didn't quite fit. The one who said the hard thing, wore the wrong thing, showed up the honest way instead of the easy way. If that's you, let me say this clearly, you are not too much. You are not the problem. You are the beginning of something stronger. You're the first domino in a room full of people waiting for permission to be real. That wedding? That moment in the bridal suite when I stood in full uniform while they all looked at me like I was in the wrong room, that wasn't the end of my story, it was the start of a better one, because after that day, I stopped trying to be acceptable and started being whole. I no longer hold my tongue when people make assumptions, I no longer soften my stance so others can stay comfortable, I no longer laugh off the jabs, or let the silence hang when something needs to be said. Now, when I walk into a room, I don't lead with apology, I lead with truth, and the wildest part, most people rise to meet it, those who don't. That's okay, you don't need everyone to understand you, you just need you to believe in you, because once you do, something incredible happens, you start to find your people, they might not be related by blood. They might not come with history or matching childhood memories. But they will come with open hearts, clear eyes, and enough room for you to be fully, unapologetically yourself. For me, that came in the form of a gray-suited veteran who made space at his table, in a father who found pride in places he never looked before, in a sister who went from judging my scars to admiring the stories they told, and in a community, this one right here, that grows every day because people like you decide to stay real. So here's my question for you, when was the moment you stopped shrinking? When did you first realize your voice mattered more than your silence? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear it. I need to hear it. Because every time one of us speaks up, someone else finds the courage to do the same, and if you've been quiet up until now, that's okay too. Start here, start today. You don't need a stage. You don't need a wedding, you just need one decision, to show up, to be seen, to stand tall in your truth, whether that truth wears a uniform, a business suit, an apron, or something with paint stains. This is your moment, take it, and if this story meant something to you, if you saw a piece of yourself in it, go ahead and hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories about courage, identity, and choosing yourself, no matter where life takes you, because this is how we rise. Not by pretending, but by showing up real, just like you are, just like I did. We all reach a moment when the mirror doesn't lie anymore, not the physical one in your bathroom, but the deeper mirror, the kind that reflects not your appearance, but your integrity, your identity, your truth. For Lauren Bennett, that moment didn't come in a war zone. It didn't come while earning a medal or saluting a flag. It came in a bridal suite, under soft lighting and satin ribbon, in a room full of polite smiles and quiet expectations. It came when someone told her, "You're not pure." And in that moment, like in so many quiet moments for people who've always been too much or not enough, she had to choose, shrink herself, or stand in her truth. She chose the truth, and in doing so, she didn't just change her story, she changed her family's story, she changed how they looked at her, yes, but more than that, she showed them how to look at themselves. How many of us have lived in that in-between? The space where you know exactly who you are, but you also know it would be easier, smoother, quieter, if you just tucked a little piece of yourself away. Just for now. Just until it's more convenient. Until they're ready, but here's the thing, they may never be ready. And the longer you wait for their comfort to catch up with your courage, the more of yourself you lose. What Lauren teaches us, what so many quiet heroes teach us, is this: you don't owe anyone a version of yourself that makes them more comfortable. You don't have to soften your truth to keep the peace. You don't have to dim your light so others can feel like they shine brighter. And you absolutely do not have to earn your place in this world by hiding your scars, your voice, your victories, or your values. Your uniform, whatever that looks like, doesn't need permission to be worn. It could be military medals like Lauren's. It could be a single mom's stretch marks. It could be the calluses on your hands from building your own life brick by brick. It could be the stutter you stopped apologizing for, the dream you didn't give up on, the accent you kept, the story you finally told, whatever it is, it's yours. And it deserves to be honored, not hidden. So many people wait for a right moment to be themselves. A holiday, a milestone, a quiet corner in the chaos. But what if I told you, the right moment is whenever you decide it is? There is no audience more important than your own soul. There is no applause louder than your own peace. And there is no dress code for being real. Lauren showed up in a uniform stitched with grit, grief, and pride, and yes, it caused discomfort. Yes, it made people pause. Yes, it wasn't part of the plan. But what followed was far more powerful than perfect harmony. It was honesty, and honesty is how healing begins. When her father saw her that morning, he didn't just see ribbons and medals, he saw his daughter for the very first time. When her sister cried, "You ruined everything," she was really saying, "You broke the mirror I was hiding behind." And when Lauren said, "I won't erase who I am," she drew a line in the sand that generations before her may have been too afraid to draw. That's what courage is, not being unafraid, but being unwilling to abandon yourself, even when it's the easier path. So now, the question becomes, what would it look like if you stopped waiting for permission? What would your life feel like if you started showing up in rooms, not hoping to be accepted, but standing firm in knowing you belong? It might shake things up. Some people may step back. They may call you dramatic, or difficult, or selfish. Let them, because the right people? The ones who are meant to be your circle, they don't need you to be smaller. They don't need you to cover your scars or silence your strength. They will stand beside you while you speak. They'll pull out a chair when you stop asking for one. They'll salute you in quiet ways, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you've dared to become. So today, I'm asking you, yes, you, to take a moment and look into your own mirror. Not the one that reflects your face, the one that reflects your soul. Ask yourself, where am I still shrinking to fit? Whose comfort am I prioritizing over my own truth? What part of me deserves to stand up and be seen? Then, if you feel moved, share your story in the comments, not because it needs to be perfect, but because someone else is reading, right now, waiting for a sign that it's okay to speak. Let your voice be that sign. And if you're still building the courage to take that step, know this, you're not alone. This community was built for people like you, people finding their way home to themselves. So hit like if this touched something in you. Hit subscribe if you want more stories that honor truth, resilience, and self-acceptance. And hit share if you know someone who's still waiting for permission to be who they are. Because the only permission slip they need is already in their hands. All that's left to do is sign it and show up, exactly as they are, exactly as you are. We're right here with you. Welcome home.